Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual conference of the Global Chamber of Business Leaders, titled Exclusively About Inclusivity, Speaking on Solutions, SOS. A warm welcome to our specially invited guests from the Association of Businesswomen in Commerce and Industry, the ABWCI, and of course, our special invitees from the Global Chamber of Business Leaders. Now, I would like to welcome each and every one of you. I know people are from all over the world, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. A special hello to our speakers. We have 9 speakers today who are going to be sharing on some very thought-provoking topics as we think about the International Women's Day theme of Inspire Inclusion. Now, when you think about Inspire Inclusion, you probably think about something grand, a grand movement, or a huge project. But sometimes inspiring inclusion is a mere whisper. It's a certain shift in tolerance for something that was not tolerated before. Sometimes I think about people like Michelle Obama, Rosa Parks, Dolly Parton, Naomi Campbell, Jennifer Lopez, and even Mariah Carey. And some of you may be thinking, how did some of those names get in there? But the thing is that some of these people, well, all of them actually, they were able to inspire inclusion in a lot of different ways, in their own professions, in their own fields. So when we think about inspiring and inclusion, we think about them and think about how they were able to make strides in their very own professional lives. And that's what it's about, inspiring inclusion. And that is something we can think about as we go along for 2024 and beyond. So without further ado, I move along with the program. I would like to take this opportunity to tell you that you can put your questions in the chat, and during our Q&A segment, we will answer some of those questions. We'll try to get through to as many of them as possible. So if you have a question or a comment, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will answer during the Q&A segment. Okay, now one thing I want to also let you know, the Global Chamber of Business Leaders, we have a magazine called the Global Times Magazine, or GTM. Today we launched our 13th edition of the magazine. It is in the events showroom here on the platform, so feel free to visit it. You can download the magazine from there, and we invite you to read. You can also visit the Global Chambers of Business Leaders website, and you can also find all of the editions of all of the recent editions of the Global Times Magazine. So 2 things to remember: put your questions and comments in the chat, and you can also visit the showroom to see the 13th edition, or the March issue, of the Global Times Magazine, which is powered by the GCBL. So now we move on with the program, and I put you on to my lovely co-host, Dr. Graciela De Oto, who will do her opening remarks. Graciela?
Thank you, Nicole. Thank
You're
you all
welcome.
So I'm so happy here to celebrate the International Women's Day with those speakers, which are so amazing. I can't wait to listen to them. My name is Graciela De Oto. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I have the privilege to be here in Global Chamber of Business Leaders as a co-chair of the Women in Business Committee. I'm also senior advisor on human rights. But I just want to tell little things about inspiring inclusion. When I think about inspiring inclusion, I think about actions, not about words, or it's not a slogan. So I invite you to think about that, and I'm going to give a little example of a lady who make a difference on diversity and inclusion. And I'm talking about Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl Sandberg is the Chief Executive Officer of Facebook. She arrived in 2008. And when she arrived in Facebook, she realized that some changes must be going on inside there. So she promoted more women in leadership. And she also created parental leave politics inside the organization. And if that was enough, she tried to reduce the gender wage gap that was doing inside there. And also in her personal life, she wrote a very famous book. It's called Lean In, and created a platform that is called Lean In Platform, where she helps women around the world to grow in business and at work. So from empowering women, just like Sheryl, or developing training for women, or incorporating more women in sports, or even trying to give more access women to health. There are so many ways to inspire inclusion. So let's go to Nicole back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Graciela. And so we move swiftly along. Next up, we were supposed to have the president of GCBL, Mr. Dejan Stancer, but he's unable to make it because of previous engagements for work. So, of course, he wanted to still lend his presence to the proceedings, and Mr. Stancer has been known for being very supportive when it comes to women's issues and women empowerment. So it makes total sense that he wanted to share with us still, even though he won't be here in body, so to speak. So Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, he is going to be reading the speech for us. So Enrique will be pulling double duty today. And Enrique is a managing board member of the GCBL, and he'll also be presenting later. So he will now procure the speech from Mr. Dejan Stancer. Enrique?
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed members of the Global Chamber of Business Leaders. Unfortunately, I cannot be present with you physically today, but rest assured, in spirit and heart, I am with every one of you, sharing the enthusiasm and significance of this wonderful gathering. As the president of the Global Chamber of Business Leaders, it is both an honor and a privilege to address the incredible women who grace us with their presence at this distinguished conference and those who are integral members of our esteemed chamber. Before delving into the matters that concern us all, I want to express my deepest gratitude for your participation. Your presence enriches our discussions, adds diverse perspectives, and contributes to the success of this global gathering. In a world that is constantly evolving, we find ourselves at a juncture where the winds of change are blowing, urging us to reevaluate our roles, responsibilities, and most importantly, our commitment to fostering a more inclusive and equal society. Today, I wish to underscore the unwavering commitment of the Global Chamber of Business Leaders to the principles of gender equality and women's empowerment. In every sector, in every corner of the globe, women have proven time and again that their contributions are not just invaluable, but irreplaceable. Yet we are actually aware that the journey towards full gender parity is far from over. As leaders in the business world, we carry a responsibility to challenge the status quo, break down barriers, and pave the way for futures where women's voices are not only heard, but celebrated. It is incumbent upon us to ensure that boardrooms, executive suites, and decision-making tables are reflective of the diversity that propels innovation and progress. The Global Chamber of Business Leaders has been and will continue to be a steadfast advocate for gender equality, and we firmly believe that empowering women is not just a moral imperative, but a strategic necessity for sustainable economy and economic growth and societal harmony. Our commitment extends beyond mere rhetoric. It is ingrained in the very fabric of our initiatives, policies, and partnerships. In acknowledging the challenges that persist, we must also recognize the incredible strides made by trailblazing women who have shattered glass ceilings, defied expectations, and illuminated the path for generations to come. Each of you is a beacon of inspiration, and it is our collective duty to amplify your stories, celebrate your achievements, and champion your causes. As we discuss the pressing issues facing our world today, let us be reminded that achieving gender equality is not just a woman's issue. It is a human issue. It requires the collaboration and commitment of everyone in this room, irrespective of gender, background, or title. In conclusion, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the women who lead, inspire, and contribute to the Global Chamber of Business Leaders. Together, let us continue to advocate for equality, challenge the norms, and create a world where every individual, regardless of gender, can thrive and contribute to their fullest potential. Together, we are changing the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Enrique. And that was a speech from Mr. Dejan Stancer, the president of the GCBL, spoken by Enrique Acosta Gonzalez. So we now move on to our next special address, which will be done by Her Excellency Laila Rahhal El Atfani. So now I invite Her Excellency on camera.
Greetings from Dubai. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Sir Enrique. And thank you to all our guests and our membership. I'm so proud to be part of GCBL. And regards to our president, I say today is a special day for the women. Is every day is special, and we are celebrating the women every day. But today is International Women's Day. As the goals of our GCBL is to empower, to build, and to collaborate. That means we women, we have a different hat, and we are inspiring each other globally, internally, and locally. I will give the prototype of UAE and Saudi. I was in Saudi 3 days ago. I see the women growth is going higher and higher. And this is a good opportunity that we can always collaborate to each other and build the future together. Because for us, the women is the key of success for each nation and direction. To inspire each other, it's not only by title, we have to do action. And that action starts from different sectors, and the most important, the economy. Because after COVID, we need hand-to-hand to build that economy to the high level, and especially with GCBL, we have different platform, different add-on. We have also Global Time, our magazine, which highlighting dignitaries and high caliber women and gentlemen. And we have as inspiring ladies to build the community and to build the commitment. The gender equality is finished because we are leading the change and challenge and leading the impact. And with the technology, we've seen a lot of women rising the tweet and building other doors together. We have with GCBL a different nationality and different high caliber who can give us the opportunity to collaborate. So, like he said, Enrique, there is no I, there is we together. Now we have to collaborate. And not only in Europe, our state of China is the globe. We are global business leader channel. GCBL giving us a big doors to collaborate together and to build the economy and to raise that economy to high level. And our president is every day having different meeting, and he's boosting the women, and we're building a new chapter. So ladies, it's time, it's our time, it's our resilience, it's our focus, it's our mission to build together the wall, not only the GCBL, but GCBL building us today and giving us a big door of collaboration. Inspire each other, boost each other, and put hand to hand, and let's build it up in proper way. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And from the island, I say to you, happy International Women's Day. And I say to Nicole, thank you for your organization as organizing these things beautifully, and also for the global time of futuring us and always boosting us. Have a pleasant evening and have a happy International Day. My apology, because here I'm in the island and the light and all that stuff, internet a little bit weak, but we women, we're gonna rock it. And there is no I, there is we, wisdom, together we build a nation. Thank you so much, Laila.
Thank you very much, Laila. And now we'll be moving along to the main segment of this program, which is the presentations from all of the speakers. Now, our first topic today is differently abled women being given key roles in corporate and retail industries. Our first speaker for today will be Dr. Ambika Sharma, but before she gives her presentation, we now invite an intro from Graciela.
I want to say that Dr. Ambika Sharma is the CEO of ABWCI, who is partnering with us today. And she's a seasoned development sector professional with over 25 years of experience, specializing in evidence-based policy and action research management, communications, organizational development, change management, and strategic partnership development in South and Southeast Asia. So please, Dr. Ambika, we are going to listen to you.
Thank you, Grace. Good day and happy International Women's Day to all of you. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to be on this distinguished panel and talk about a topic that often goes unnoticed. So I want to actually shine the spotlight today on a set of remarkable women who are differently abled and often go unnoticed in the conversation on diversity and inclusion. I'm not going to belabor the point about challenges, which most of us know are attitudinal barriers and manifold when it comes to systems. Because we're discussing solutions today, I want to move very quickly into what it is we can do, both in our corporate lives, but also women beyond corporate. It isn't so much about the workspace, but I think just society at large. Firstly, I think we need to challenge these inherent biases and assumptions. And I think it's very important to internalize and talk about the fact that disability is not inability. On the contrary, these are remarkable women with a lot of resilience, with a lot of special attributes. And I think that is what needs to be brought to fore. Secondly, and more importantly, I think we need to advocate for policies and practices that ultimately fosters a culture of respect. And it's very important to ensure that we retain people that are differently able and not single them out. Unfortunately, it is a cultural context and it varies across the globe. But we can surely create an ecosystem that looks at creating systems, processes that allows them to be part and more sort of inclusive in the work environment. And finally, I think most importantly, amplify these voices, listen to them, listen to their experiences. And by listening, I mean actively listening. You know, it's not about being tolerant. It's not about being patronizing, but to actually be empathetic and understand what it means to be differently abled. And then, these stories or their experiences, those need to be amplified so there's deeper understanding. If we don't understand what it means to be differently abled, we're not going to be able to address that in a meaningful or impactful way. I do want to say, and I want to be very clear about this so that no one gets me wrong, that these challenges are not unsurmountable. These are very simple things that we need to do at a very humanistic level. It's about appreciating the differences and creating spaces where we acknowledge those differences and we kill some of those barriers. And this can be done with very, very small changes and adjustments within the physical space, but I think more so at a cultural level. I mean, I want to just reinforce the need for respect. You need to respect each other as a person in the way one is being created, and I think that to me is the most important thing. I want to sort of end this by saying that we need to build a future together where diversity is celebrated, barriers are dismantled, and every individual is allowed to thrive in the way he or she exists. At ABWCI, I can assure you that we're deeply committed to creating an ecosystem for women entrepreneurs that is inclusive in every which way possible. And in addition to women, we have a hashtag that we use quite proudly, which is called He for She. Our founder is a man, and he takes great pride in this, and we kind of joke about it as well. But I think it's very important, and Enrique is on the panel today. I think it's also about sort of creating a level of equality and sort of appreciating this at a human level. And finally, I just have one thing to say, and this is something my husband shared with me today, which is that every hero has a her in the hero. And I think that is what we need to sort of reinforce on a daily basis. I don't want to talk about differently abled in a way that it is larger than normal. But statistics tell us that 15% of women over 15, girls over 15, are disabled in the world today. This is World Bank stats. And if we look at the rate of employment, less than 19% who are differently abled are in regular sustained jobs. I think we need to turn this around. And even though I'm talking about this in a soft way, I mean, we can talk about all kinds of systems in a corporate that can be improved, from HR to washrooms, to the lighting, to the ramps. But I feel that if we don't cut the attitudinal barrier and the bias, none of these stats are going to change. And I'll stop there and hand it back to Grace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. That was some very enlightening points that you made there. Thank you very much. And staying on this topic of differently abled women being given key roles in the corporate and retail industries, we have Liz Whitehead, and Graciela will give you an overview of her.
Yes. Well, Liz Whitehead is the president of Washington, D.C. under the ABWCI. She's the CEO of 12.5, an award-winning business development consultant who specializes in helping diverse businesses maximize their certification benefits and tap into corporate supplier diversity programs. Liz, please.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. I'm really glad to follow Dr. Ambika Sharma because I didn't know how I was going to cover everything in terms of differently abled women. So she kicked us out to a great start. When I think about this, and I appreciated your focus on solutions, because that's what we're doing, speaking on solutions. I really think about business leaders thinking about this from three perspectives. So one is the perspective of yourself, two is a perspective of your employees, and three is the perspective of your customers. So Dr. Sharma gave us the statistics on women with disabilities worldwide. And the other thing to consider is that the people with disabilities is one of the fastest growing groups because it's something that it's one of the pieces of identity that we might age into, we might become people with disabilities. You might not be born with a disability. It might happen. So I say that not to scare everyone, but again, as we talk about the theme of inclusion, that this is a very natural and normal progression of people's lives, moving from a person with abilities to people with different abilities later. So when you think about yourself, I work with people with disabilities in terms of helping them get contracts with large corporations, and never have I spoken to a business leader with a disability that said, oh yeah, I'm a person with a disability. No one sees themselves as someone with, as Dr. Sharma said, an inability, right? And business leaders are always saying, well, sure, I deal with these challenges every day, or I have the situation I have to manage, but it's not a disability for me. I don't consider it a disability. And so I encourage people to think about that. One, in yourselves, a lot of people don't see themselves as someone with a disability, even though if we look at in the US, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act, they have something classified as such. And then the other thing is, a lot of the business leaders I speak to don't consider themselves as someone with a disability because it's that disability that put them in the position for success. I spoke to a business owner who, has a condition and they are an operations leader. They are a fractional COO. So they help business owners with their operations. And they said, well, one of the reasons I'm able to do this, I see things in systems. I see the way systems work. So I can take someone's vision and operationalize that. So something that, technically or according to a list of disabilities fits into that category was actually their superpower in creating a business and sustaining and thriving in that business. So, and then thirdly, also not all disabilities are disabilities that we can see. When you think of a person with a disability, again, in the States, there's a picture of a sign for special parking, and you might think of someone with a physical disability, but there's a lot of disabilities that we can't see that people are suffering from. So I say all that to say as business leaders, it's important for those of us with disabilities to come out and, talk about their disabilities, but also for them for all of us to recognize in ourselves the places where, one, we might be facing challenges, but also where the different ways we see the world are actually our superpower. I also want to talk about employees. So in the US, if you have an employee with a disability, you have to make accommodations. But the leaders that are the most successful are, again, the ones that see their employees with disabilities as those people with superpowers, people that can see the world differently, people that can operate within their companies differently in an innovative way. And the importance of that is, again, why we're all in business, right? Customers. Your customers are people with disabilities. So having yourself, your empathy and your vision for that, but then also encouraging your employees in that way to see what are some solutions we can come up for our customers, whether it's from user experience or user design. It goes beyond an accessible website. That's certainly a necessary but not sufficient part of really accommodating not only yourself, but your employees and your customers on this journey. So I'm going to keep it brief. And those are my remarks, but I want to thank everybody here and look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thank you so very much, Liz. And thank you for also highlighting some factors within the US, because obviously we know there are different laws that may govern different countries and, they would have different impacts. So thank you very much for shedding light on that, Liz. And now we move on to our second topic for today, which is female creatives and how they can be valuable in the corporate world. And our first speaker up today for this topic will be Vidya Manmohan, and we would get a little overview on Vidya now.
Yes. Yes, Dejan is the president of the United Arab Emirates for ABWCI. She's a pioneer female chief creative officer with over 25 years of experience of leading global network agencies and has won many, many international awards. And she also served on prestigious juries for top advertising festivals. So we want to hear you, Vidya.
Thank you so much, Graciela. That was a really fancy intro. And hello, beautiful, inspiring people. Thank you very much for having me on board. And I'm super delighted to share this platform with this beautiful panel. So thank you again. Just going about the topic. So the title actually got me thinking. When we say, how can we female creatives add value to the corporate world? I was like, oh my God, that's quite intense. I mean, there have always been debates around how creatives can add value to companies. And today we're actually, adding the whole female angle to it. I was like, man, that's like, but then, it got me thinking, and I think, let me start by saying being creative is a blessing, and so is being female. So I don't think we particularly need to add value. And this is at least my experience, and this is coming from my point of view. So this is going to be a very personal, sharing of whatever I've learned in this, little bit of a journey of mine. So I feel when we're already welcomed into any world, let alone the corporate one, it actually becomes more complete, more meaningful, and fruitful. So we do not have to walk the paths treaded by others. We do not have to try and fit into molds that weren't actually cast for us. We can just do things our way, and hopefully, unknowingly, maybe we create new ones along our journeys. So here's a bit of a personal story of mine, and I hope I don't bore you. It's just meant to, like, if anyone gets any inspiration from it. So here's a bit of my story. After having worked with global network agencies for over 20 years and being named, as Dr. Graciela mentioned, being named as one of the few award-winning female creative directors in the MENA region, I decided to walk a path that was very unknown to me. And 3 years ago, I went ahead and set up We for Good. So We for Good today is actually my own version of a network agency that collaborates with super talented women from all over the world, and amazing men too. Our only agenda was to put the best we know in the best places possible. And this is how we come about it. And we say we don't have to mimic others in the industry to find success, because we are future focused, and it's time to rewrite the definition of success. So we can just be ourselves and be appreciated for who we are. We don't have to find, the work-life balance, because we believe the work we actually do will infuse a better life. So, when I first started the agency, I was a bit apprehensive about how would I have managed the accounts and finance, as I don't have a degree in any of them. And, all I knew was to be creative. But along the way, I realized it's all right if you don't know something, and it's all right to make mistakes, and it's all right to learn at any age. And Dr. Ambika, you were talking about disabilities. I have quite many when it comes to all of these, and it is a fear. So last year, I actually completed my master's in digital management from Hyper Island in London. I was probably the oldest in my batch, but who cares about that number when all the other numbers were actually adding up? So today, in brief, we have collaborations all the way from Canada and the US to Philippines and Australia. And some of our key clients today are Lego, the #1 toy brand, a couple of reputed ministries in the UAE, Dr. Laila might know, and a leading bank in Abu Dhabi. But what's common with all of them is their trust in us and the work that we do for them. So honestly, I don't think anything else actually matters. So I would like to conclude by saying, let's just start by believing in ourselves, and the corporate world will definitely be a different place. So may we move on to add our touch of creativity and passion to any industry we grace. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vidya, for that. And that was a very interesting point you made about the work-life balance. Of course, that's a very hot topic these days in terms of both men and women. But I guess it depends on what your personal preference is. But for creatives like us, we may think work is fun. So I can get that. So thank you, Vidya. And staying on this topic of female creatives and how they can be valuable in the corporate world, we have Emelda Mwamanga, and we'll have an overview for her now.
Yes, Emelda is the country president of ABWCI Tanzania. She's the CEO and principal consultant at Relim Company Limited, specializing in human resources and logistics consulting in Tanzania. Additionally, Emelda has the East Africa Bank Media House, has been honored with prestigious leadership awards, and has recently launched Pivoting in Hills, which features women leaders who navigated challenges during the pandemic with resilience. Please, Emelda, enlighten us.
Thank you very much for wonderful introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to address you today on a topic that is not only pertinent, but also profoundly inspiring. The invaluable contribution of female creatives in the corporate world. It is such a wonderful topic. As we navigate through the intricacies of modern business landscape, it becomes increasingly evident that diversity in talent is not just a matter of ethical consideration, but a strategic imperative for success. And the forefront of this diversity are the female creatives, whose unique perspective and innovative thinking propel organization towards new horizons of achievement. In a corporate arena, creativity is the cornerstone of the progress. It sparks that ignites innovation, drives problem solving, and fuels growth. And who better embodied this spirit of creativity than women who bring rich tapestry of experience, insights, and talents to the table? First and foremost, let's acknowledge that creativity knows no bound of gender. However, historically, women have been underrepresented in corporate leadership and creative roles. But times are changing and narratives is shifting. Today, more than ever, we recognize and celebrate the invaluable contribution of female creative. So what makes female creative unique, valuable in the corporate world? For starters, women often bring fresh perspective to the table. Their diverse life experiences, perspectives, and approaches to problem solving can offer unique insight that may have been overlooked in more homogeneous environments. And studies have shown that diverse teams, including those with gender diversity, tend to be more innovative and better equipped to tackle complex challenges. Furthermore, female creatives often possess strong emotional intelligence, empathy, and intuition, qualities that are indispensable in today's interconnected and rapidly evolving business landscape. These traits enable them to understand and connect with diverse audience, anticipate market trends, and give meaningful engagement with stakeholders. Moreover, fostering an environment that values and empowers female creatives not only promotes gender equality, but also enhances overall organization performance. Research has consistently demonstrated that companies with diverse leadership teams outperform their less diverse counterparts in terms of financial performance, employee satisfaction, and innovation. However, despite the progress we've made, significant barriers and biases still exist that hinder the full realization of female creatives' potential in corporate world. It's mandatory upon all of us to challenge these barriers, dismantle systematic biases, create inclusive environment where every individual, regardless of gender, can thrive and contribute their unique talents. In conclusion, the value of female creatives in the corporate world cannot be overstated. Their creativity, perspective, and leadership are indispensable assets that drives innovation, foster growth, and create more inclusive, prosperous future for us all. Let us commit ourselves to champion diversity, empowering women, and harnessing the full potential of female creatives. And before I end, it is up to us to not be scared of learning new talents or learning new things. So this is also a call for women to get in there. There is no male or female job perspective recently. You can do anything. And I would say this with my experience. I've been working for the 20 years publishing the magazine with creative designers. I've been spending time with them and I have learned from them. Right now, I could sit and create a magazine on my own. So women can do what men can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emelda, for that. And I do agree with you that we should continue to evolve as we go along. And that goes for men and women. But of course, as today is International Women's Day, men, don't be too jealous. We're dealing with the women right now. Okay. So moving on, we move on to our next topic for today, which is smashing stereotypes in the urban community. And presenting on this topic will be Lilian Ong, and we'll get a preview of her now.
Yes, of course. Lilian Ong is the Singapore president of ABWCI. She is a dynamic entrepreneur, author, a speaker, and coach. She holds multiple certifications, including accredited neuro-linguistic programming. She is the author of several books, including the upcoming book, Transform with Courage. She has contributed to social causes and through volunteer work as a fashion model and mentor in Singapore's girl home and women's prison. Please, Lilian, we want to hear you.
Thank you so much, Graciela. And thank you very much for the invitation to share my thoughts at this wonderful platform. I think the solution hides in this quote that from Matthew Arnold, and I quote, "If there ever comes a time where the women of the world comes together, purely and simply for the benefit of mankind, it will be a force such as the world has never known." This is Matthew Arnold's vision, an 18th century male poet who understood the power of courageous women leadership. My vision is to see women living our dreams and destiny while making a positive impact in our sphere of influence, not to compete with the men, because my mission is to inspire and empower women to be liberated from our fears, self-doubt, and limiting beliefs through mentoring and with an ecosystem of community support. In fact, when women arise and take our positions in courageous leadership in the different sphere of influence, we become complementary partners working together in unity with the male leadership to provide innovative solutions and solve problems in this world. So there shouldn't be a battle of the gender. There must be unity in leadership at all levels of governance. You know, every woman is celebrated. Like what Enrique mentioned, every woman is celebrated, is given the opportunity, must be given the opportunity to acquire knowledge, a safe environment to grow and develop herself. Every woman has a voice, and that voice must not be quenched with intimidation, but to inspire and empower each other to speak up with courage. Women by nature, we are nurturing and giving. Women has our own unique strength, and we are able to add value and contribute to create a very positive impact in our own sphere of influence. And that sphere of influence that I'm talking about, it can be a family, a community, a business, education, healthcare, pop culture, sports, media, technology, or the nations, or even the world. And see, a woman is also a receiver, and we are built to influence. You know, we are designed to receive from the male and to incubate what we receive so that we can grow and develop. And our wombs, whether is it physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, we have a tremendous influence on what we receive by providing a very nurturing and transforming environment. So you give us a seed, we'll give you a garden. You give me a house, you give us a house, we give you a home. You give us empowerment, we give you transformative impact. So men and women must work together with our individual unique leadership to create that safe society for our children and the next generation to flourish. You see, position power and influence power are not mutually exclusive. They are meant to be exercised together to create a better world for our next generation. Now, renowned leadership expert John Maxwell, he said this: everything rises and falls on leadership. So what is leadership? What is your definition of leadership? What is the definition of leadership from the culture, society, community that we grew up with? In my own personal experience, in my life journey, I learned that my life unfolds in proportion to my courage to first lead myself. Talking about self-leadership. And life is like a classroom. It's like a class of invaluable experiential learnings, right? Where one is either purposefully engaged in developing solutions to problems, you know, and demonstrating courage, love, authenticity, stewardship, and significance, right? Or you can be drifting through life aimlessly, you know, in self-sabotaging patterns, confusion and chaos, and then being trapped in fear, self-doubt, or even hopelessness. So courage is a choice to take very intentional and committed action in the face of fear to create that change that we want to see. So at Class Living and at my community, Women of Courage Asia, you know, my team and I, we are very passionate about empowering women to focus on our growth and in courageous self-leadership, because we recognize a woman's value and purpose, right? And we celebrate her voice, her visibility, her journey, turning the impossible into I'm possible. So our behaviors, because our behaviors are driven by our values and belief system. So for change to take place, we must go to the root of that problem and work from there. So I just want to encourage all our audience out there and those who are listening, especially the sisters, you know, my dear sisters, it is time to actually respond and show up to the call to lead with courage and create that transformative impact in your own sphere of influence. And the world needs to understand this. When you awaken the courage of a woman, you ignite her power of influence in leadership for transformative impact. And that is self-leadership and self-leadership is what we are focusing on in our community. And we see that transformative impact over and over and over again with so many testimonies. And yeah, I think this is what I want to communicate. And I hope that that has added value in the sharing. Thank you very much. And happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Lilian. Thank you for that. And you made a very good point there. Change requires change. And that's something that we need to remember. And also with self-leadership, there's nothing wrong with that. Share your power, own your power. So thank you so much, Lilian. And now we move on to our first male presenter, our first male speaker for today. We wanted to include the gentleman, even though it's International Women's Day, because when you think about it, the changes that need to happen with women's rights and women's issues, we need to include men as well. So why not have them included in our virtual conference? So speaking on new masculinities, we're going to have Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, And now we'll have an overview of him.
Yes, I'm so happy that Enrique and Chuck joined us as speakers. Well, Enrique is a managing board member of the Global Chamber of Business Leaders, the best-selling author of A Lion's Pride and co-author of Voices for Leadership. He has over 30 years of diverse experience in executive, business, and non-profit sectors. A former Navy veteran, he is the CEO of Triad Leadership Solutions and podcast creator and host of Developing the Leader Within. So, Enrique, we want to hear you.
Thank you so much for having me. I was looking at the panel picture and I said, how did I end up here? But I'm so gracious to be invited to speak with you on this topic of emerging new masculinities, right? What does that mean? So today I want to talk about that, the evolution that has been long overdue, the emergence of new masculinities that support the modern day woman. It's no secret that our society has undergone profound changes that are challenging traditional gender roles and norms. In this landscape that we currently live in, it's imperative to redefine what it means to be a man in a world that is striving for gender equality and inclusivity. So it's my opinion that gone are the days when masculinity was solely defined by strength, dominance, and stoicism. Today's men are embracing a new paradigm, one that celebrates vulnerability, empathy, and collaboration. And these new masculinities recognize the inherent value of all individuals, regardless of gender, and actively work to dismantle the barriers that have held women back for far too long. Now, I live in a household of 5 women. So I'm well acquainted with the necessity to collaborate and also give way at times. Supporting the modern day woman isn't about diminishing oneself as a man. It's about recognizing that true strength lies in lifting each other up. It's about understanding that gender equality isn't a zero-sum game. When women thrive, so do men, and vice versa. So what does it mean to embody these new masculinities? It means being an ally in the fight for gender equality, advocating for equal rights and opportunities for women in every aspect of life. It means challenging the toxic stereotypes and behaviors that perpetuate gender inequality, both in our personal lives and in the broader society. It means actively listening to women's voices, valuing their perspectives, and applying their stories. Everybody likes to hear their story. It means sharing household responsibilities and caregiving duties equitably, recognizing that domestic labor is not the sole domain of women. I, for one, love to cook, and I know my wife is happy about that. And I love to see my family, and like I say, I have 5 in my household, happy to have me as their counterpart, as their supporter, as their champion. It means being comfortable expressing emotions authentically without fear and being seen as weak or less masculine. I grew up in a household, and I distinctly remember someone saying, men don't cry. And then my mom would say, real men cry. So it means rejecting the notion that vulnerability is a flaw and embracing it as a source of strength and connection. It means confronting sexism and misogyny wherever we encounter it, whether it's in the workplace, in society, or social settings, or within ourselves. It means standing up against harassment, discrimination, and violence directed at women, and working to create safer, more inclusive environments for all. Supporting the modern day woman also means recognizing and addressing the intersecting forms of discrimination and oppression that women face. Many face it without having the opportunity to say so. It means advocating for the rights and dignity of all women, regardless of their race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or gender identity. In closing, embracing new masculinities that support the modern day woman isn't just the right thing to do. It's essential for creating a more just, equitable, and inclusive world for everyone. As men, we have a responsibility to challenge outdated notions of masculinity and to actively work towards a future where all individuals, regardless of gender, can thrive and flourish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Enrique. And I have a sneaky feeling that when you said you lived in a household with 5 women, the men, they clutch their chest and they were like, I feel your pain. But no, it's a good environment, right? You like it. You like being among, the female counterparts in your home. The thing about it is, dealing with new masculinities, I think you made some pretty good points about that. And I think it's very easy for us to forget that new thinking needs to be happening. We are therefore we are in 2024, so it's time for change. So thank you, Enrique, for your presentation. And now we move along to our next topic for today, which is how one woman broke barriers for woman empowerment in the 2020s. And we're moving to our second male speaker for today, who is none other than Chuck Adams, and we'll hear his overview now.
Thank you, Nicole. And first, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be on this panel with everybody here. And happy International Women's Day, absolutely. And when given this topic, I thought really long and hard about this, not because there's so few, because there's so many women that have been an inspiration to me. And it's funny, Enrique mentioning that. Again, this is not a zero-sum game, is a great way to put it. And I also grew up in a house full of wonderful women and girls. I'm the eldest of 5 and was around women and cousins quite a bit. And when I thought about it in the world that I come from specifically, one that's typically male-dominated, I really wanted to highlight somebody that has really pushed the limits for women, has been an absolute inspiration to all, if you ask me. And I wanted to highlight Gwen Shotwell. She is the CEO and president of SpaceX. And people say SpaceX. Got it, right? And a lot of people think of Elon Musk, but when you actually peel back the layers of SpaceX, you realize that Gwen was responsible for the explosive growth it's seen and has been a huge beacon of leadership and innovation, and for women and helping break barriers, particularly in STEM areas. So first, she was very innovative in the work of the space industry, which has exploded over the last 10 to 20 years, and she continues to break barriers into the 2020s. She spent much of her time leading wonderful projects, going to the moon, going into space throughout the 1990s and into the 2000s. And she helped spearhead groundbreaking advancements in space exploration. Additionally, in 2002, that's where she joined SpaceX. Elon Musk was such a big player at SpaceX, and people see him as kind of this front side of it, right? This heart almost. But the truth is she helped make all of that a reality over the last 20 years and then continuing into the 2020s. She led SpaceX to become the first privately funded company to reach the International Space Station. She was the key person behind securing contract with NASA and other significant entities. Very forward-thinking. Think about the reusable rockets, et cetera, and showcases the critical role that women particularly have in shaping the future of technology and business, which leads me to my third area, breaking the gender barriers. She's a huge advocate for women, particularly in STEM fields. She's been a role model, providing leadership capabilities, like I said, in a typically male-dominated industry. And she's inspired many women to enter STEM fields or whatever they shoot for in their dreams, to pursue those careers and reach for the stars, is the way we put it. And so with that, and with how much notoriety she's gone in helping break those barriers and push SpaceX, she's also been recognized so much for what she's done for women in innovation. In 2012, she was inducted into the Women in Technology International Hall of Fame. She was named to Time's 100 Most Influential People numerous times, including in 2020. And I think later this year, she's going to achieve the Edison Award, Achievement Award, they call it, which is recognizing her contributions for women in STEM, the field of innovation, and technology. I encourage everybody here, no matter your gender, to really look at Shotwell's journey, and it underscores the importance of diversity and inclusion, particularly in business work. Her leadership, her advocacy and strategic vision she's had for SpaceX and for the world at large has been recognized and shown her to be a pioneering woman that's been being an inspiration and breaking barriers for everyone. It calls us, whether men, women, or whatever gender, to continue promoting innovation, equality, and leadership throughout corporate or other bodies. And no matter what your gender is, and even as a man, I look at it with, I got a little daughter, Shotwell's story is just an inspiration for all of us to strive for betterment and shooting for the stars and breaking all those barriers for women. Thank you very much for having me today. And again, happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Chuck. And thank you for shedding light on her and sharing part of her journey with us. Thank you so much. And now we move on to our last topic for today, and that is the value that women can bring to the purple economy. And presenting on this topic will be Susan Gong, but before Susan does her presentation, Graciela will give us an overview on her.
Yes. Susan is the country president of Canada under the ABWCI, and she is the CEO of Altec Global Inc. Susan is also a former member of the Immigration and Refugee Board and recipient of the Chinese Woman Pioneer Award, holding an honors BBA from Wilfrid Laurier University and a CAPCA designation. She contributes significantly to charitable endeavors. She is a distinguished member of the College of Immigration and Citizenships Consultants. Susan, welcome.
Thank you very much. And it's my real honor today to be here. So ladies and gentlemen, today as we celebrate International Women's Day, we must acknowledge the profound impact women have had on shaping our societies, economies, and cultures. It's a day to recognize and celebrate the achievements of women worldwide, while also acknowledging the work that still needs to be done to achieve gender equality. So I was given the theme, Purple Economy, and I was told to wear something a little bit purple. The purple economy highlights the importance of women's economic empowerment and their crucial role in driving sustainable development. The color purple symbolizes dignity and justice, values that are central to achieving gender equality in all aspects of life. So when we talk about purple economy, we are not just talking about women's participation in the workforce. We are talking about creating an inclusive economic environment where women have equal access to opportunities, resources, and decision-making power. It's about breaking down barriers and challenging stereotypes that hold women back from reaching their full potential. So empowering women economically is not just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. Studies have shown that when women are economically empowered, they invest more in their family's health, education, and well-being, leading to stronger and more resilient communities.
However, despite the progress we have made, gender disparities persist in many parts of the world. Women contribute to face barriers such as limited access to education, unequal pay, and discrimination in the workplace. We must address these challenges head-on and work towards creating a world where every woman and girl has the opportunity to thrive and succeed. As we celebrate International Women's Day and reflect on the importance of the purple economy, let us commit ourselves to taking concrete actions to promote gender equality and empower women economically. Let us support initiatives that promote women's entrepreneurship, provide access to finance and training, and create enabling environments for women to succeed in all sectors of the economy. Together, we can build a more equitable and prosperous world for all, and where women are valued, respected, and empowered to fulfill their potential. Thank you, and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Susan, for your presentation. And, you know, talking about that particular topic, we know that it's something that is extremely relevant now in the 2020s. So thank you for lending your thoughts on that.
Okay.
So as we wrap up, we go into the question and answer segment. So I want to thank all of the speakers for their presentations, but I just have a few questions for a few of the speakers. Dr. Sharma, there is a question that I would like to pose to you concerning the differently abled women who may be in corporate or retail industries. I think typically a lot of people, when they think of differently abled individuals on the whole, they think of something physical. But as of course we know that it can be mental as well. Now I wanted to touch on the autistic woman, although it may not be in your purview per se, but in terms of autistic women, some people, especially if they're on the lower spectrum, people may not realize that they are autistic. So what would you say to that in terms of how employers can approach this situation? Because a lot of times people may look at someone and say, oh, well, they're fine. They operate well, they work, you know, but they may be on the lower end of the autistic spectrum. They may not be new to anything. So how do you think employers now in the 2020s can approach situations like that?
So Nicole, I have two perspectives on that question. One, and I said this in my opening remarks as well, that cultural sensitivity varies, you know, from region to region across the world. And, you know, you're talking about the lower end of the spectrum of autism. There are several countries where there isn't an acceptance or acknowledgement or even understanding of the fact that someone could be autistic to begin with. In a scenario like that, or in countries and regions like that, is where I said that it's very important to amplify the voices of these experiences, you know, for women to come forward in, you know, from other parts of the world who know what it means to be autistic and how they're dealing with it or their employers are dealing with it. That's one end of the spectrum or my perspective. The second is in countries and in economies that are developed, that recognize this, understand this. You know, it is something that is more established as part of, you know, employment benefits that come to you. I think in a scenario like that, it is, again, what I said about an attitudinal shift and accepting that it's not a disability. I mean, you know, that's the problem that I have even with the word differently abled. You know, and I'm quite struggling to explain this And which is why I was trying to not make a very impassioned plea about it. But I do want to say this, that it is not an inability, it's almost like the English language. I mean, I'm from India. I may have gone to a school that taught me the English language, but it's not my language really. And if I can't emote and express myself, exactly the way I want to, it's not a disability, right? I'm just lower order in the spectrum when it's about comfort with the language. So I think as employers, and which is why I said it's not about employers, and one of my other panelists said this as well, that this is about society, it's about family, I think Lilian said that, it's about every aspect of life. And I think as employers, having more conversations around it and being respectful. If someone's slow, you could be slow because of multiple reasons. Autism doesn't have to be one of it. There could be a million other reasons, You could be having a terrible time in your personal life, but when you come to work, you can't bring that baggage with you. So I think at some level, just being able to respect each other, and being more tolerant and patient. I'm not saying incompetence, that's a different approach altogether.
Absolutely,
but just
yes.
slightly more, understanding. I think that would change a lot of things in workplace and society at large.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Does anybody want to share a view on that as well? Liz, I know you spoke on the topic as well.
I completely agree with Dr. Sharma that disability is an inadequate word, even when you're using people first language, like person with a disability. Enrique mentioned that he said, I say disability, which I think is great. I think language can be the first step in changing the way we see things and our cultural understanding of things. So I think that's important. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Dr. Sharma covered it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Liz. Does anybody want to share a thought on that or ask a question? Okay, Liz, I'd like to stay with you for a minute though. What do you think is the number one mindset change that has to happen? You just mentioned language, right? That may be a start, but what is one of the other major mindset shifts that you think needs to happen?
This is a great question. So this is my chance to shout out an organization here in the US called Disability In, which works with people with disabilities in the workforce and also in the supply chain. Corporations are interested in both. And I think we need to start looking at these abilities that people we consider to have disabilities have. Those are that one, it's as I mentioned, a growing part of the population, and it's going to be important for all of us, for ourselves, our employees, and our customers, that we look at ways we can include people in the workforce. We can include our customers, and that we're serving the big corporate customers that want to see us as business leaders bring these people into the fold. So I think a huge mindset is that it's an asset, not a disability.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. I wanted to pose a question to Enrique. You presented on new masculinities. Now, as we know, in the 2020s, especially, we're seeing so many shifts happening in terms of mindsets, in terms of habits. Some of them coming out of the pandemic, some of them would have been long-standing. But what I would like to know is, in your opinion, is there a particular generation, Enrique, that you feel there is this almost resistance when it comes to the new thinking and supporting new moves? Because as we know, a lot of the stereotypes that have come about, some of the perceptions that have come about, they have been here, some of them way longer than before we were born. So do you think there's a particular generation who is resistant to changing the status quo, so to speak, maybe even the baby boomers, because it would have started there or just before them? So what do you have to say to that, Enrique?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I think about the possible points in history where it seems to be like a roadblock, I would
Mhm.
say the tides have changed within my generation, right? So I was born in the 70s, well into my 50s now, and there is a cusp, a split between the folks that were born in my generation going forward and some
Mhm.
that have hold true or held true to past mindsets.
Right.
Um, what what I have to say is that this generation right now that is coming up actively in the workforce, not the ones that are being bored, they'll walk into this, but the ones that are in the workforce that are younger
Mhm.
are bringing a different paradigm and a different mindset from what gender used to be when I was born.
Yeah.
Before, it was very still male dominant for whatever reason. I've never
Mhm.
ascribed to it. I've always, being from one of a high volume women concentration in my house, I've always subscribed to what's the best impact you can have on this earth before you leave, right? And so that's how I've reared the girls here. But
Mhm.
I think that's what it was. It's in that generation now, but what we're seeing now in the workforce is the demand. It's no longer a clamor. It's a demand. It's a demand for
Yes.
change. It's before we used to have to cry for change. No, we want it or we're out of here. Right.
Mhm.
And so I love to see not so much the combative side of that, but the demand, right? There is an equality and it has to start here first. And for all the males, I would love for them to explore their origin story. You did not come from a man, you came from a woman.
Mhm.
And so there's a big, big value there. And if you go back to your origin story as a man, you'll give the woman the just due and respect that she deserves, even in all aspects of life and work.
Thank you, Enrique. And I'd just like to open the floor for a minute with the speakers, anybody who wants to touch on that as well. Because as Enrique did mention, there is a shift with the millennials and with the Gen Zers, and they are no longer like the Gen X generation, who would be like, well, they talk quietly at the water cooler, or they message each other and they have private sessions. But with the millennials and the Gen Zers, I think especially the Gen Zers, I would say, in my opinion, they are extremely vocal with the way they are in the workforce. So it's a whole different shift, as Enrique said. Is there anybody who wants to touch on that in terms of generational impacts? Anyone? Going once? Going twice?
I'd like to
Okay.
say something, yeah. I
Yes.
see there's a huge shift from the 90s. And I think I'm from Tanzania, Africa. For so long, there was these issues of male dominance that even for families having only girls, for instance, it was seen as a family that is it's really not having children, but so to say, because girls were only looked at there to go to school for just understanding to read and write, and then to get married and to bear children and so forth. And even in corporate companies, for women to be leading in senior position, it was almost not normal. So in
Unheard
the
of, yes.
so things have changed with technology, that now the world is a global world. You see things are happening in other countries, in other nations, and we learn. So there's a huge shift, I agree. And today, the youth today, I feel like women have got so much power because of the women empowerment, gender empowerment, mostly women empowerment. So we see even a girl child now is coming up with much force. And so it's about time to now think of the male child as well. So it shouldn't just go like a switch now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Emelda. And as we wrap up the Q&A, or look to wrap up the Q&A, Graciela, are there any questions or comments you'd like to add? Graciela? Is she on?
I say, it might look like she might have dropped.
Yeah. Okay. So that wraps up our Q&A segment for today. And we move into our wrap-up segment. I would just like to thank all of you speakers for taking the time to participate in our virtual conference today, exclusively about inclusivity, speaking on solutions, SOS. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for agreeing to participate. And I really welcome even additional forums, because I think not only were the topics interesting, but some of you, well, all of you have given so much to think about. And there are things that you mentioned that can spark a myriad of other conversations. So thank you so much for your time and your preparation and your support for this event. Also, I must extend thanks to our attendees here today. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and support. Of course, I would like to specially mention Mr. Hrithik Verma of the ABWCI. Thank you so much for your support and your help during the planning phase of this conference. Thank you so much. And a thank you to all of the other ABWCI officials who, lent of their time and their effort to this project. I also want to thank our GCBLers who would have come on to support us. Thank you so much. This is our first annual International Women's Day virtual conference. So thank you so much for your support. And I cannot end without thanking the Confiva team, specifically Jaka and Erik. They were absolute blessings for us with this event. Thank you so much for all of your hard work in making this come together and doing it so smoothly. Of course, I want to thank our president, Mr. Dejan Stancer. Mr. Stancer has always been a beacon of light, and he's always been a support for ideas. And he's definitely a leader who is all about supporting women. And it's not just in words, but it's in actions. So I must also extend a special thanks to him. And thank you to my darling co-host, Graciela, who was an absolute dream in putting this conference together with me. So I say thank you to her. And it's really been a pleasure, not just planning this conference, but also hosting today and having you all in our forum. So thank you very much. I ask the speakers to stay on for a few minutes. And I thank you all again for attending the 2024 International Women's Day virtual conference, which was organized by the Global Chamber of Business Leaders in partnership with the Association of Businesswomen in Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend.